gamers, for another episode of Warhammer Underworlds Warband Focus. Today we're going to look at Zarbags Gits. So, let's go ahead and look at the characters first. First up we have Zarbag, who is the leader of the Warband. He is a basically level 2 wizard. He has his cursed sickle, which is 1 hex range, 3 on the cursed or crossed swords, and 2 damage. He will inspire when you have 3 or more glory points. He has a movement of 3, a 2 dodge defense, and 3 health. His special abilities are Scurry. It's a reaction after a friendly fighter other than a squig makes a move action. If that move began in an adjacent hex, this fighter makes a move action. They cannot do this if they have any move or charge tokens. So when he inspires, let's see, he gains 1 point of movement, and his cursed sickle gains cleave. So that is Zarbag. Next we have Drizzt the Squid herder. And this is his model. He has the Squig brand, range of 1, 2 on the hammers. Gets 2 dice, needing hammer symbol, and 2 damage. Needs 3 glory points to inspire. He has a 3 movement, 1 defense dice on a shield, and 3 health. His action, or for an action, this fighter and its 2 adjacent friendly squigs each make a move action. A fighter cannot take this action or move in this way if they have any move or charge tokens. He also has Scurry. See when he inspires, he gains 1 dice on his attack and 1 hex of movement. So let's Drizzt. We have his 2 squigs. Gobblelook and Bone Wrecker. Both have huge jaws. They have 1 hex of range. They have 2 dice on the attack, need hammers, and 2 damage. They inspire when Drizzt is out of action. They've got 3 movement, 1 dice on defense, which is a dodge, and 2 health. You do not place this fighter normally. During setup, when you place Drizzt, during setup, immediately place this fighter in your territory as close as possible to that Drizzt on a hex other than a starting hex, lethal hex, or a blocked hex. This fighter cannot be given attack action upgrades and cannot hold objectives. So, when they inspire, they gain 1 attack dice and they gain 1 defense dice. Almost forgot to show you. There's Gobble. there is Bone Wrecker. Next is Smirk Sourtongue. Here's his model. Smirk is going to be your Goblin Fanatic, looks like. He has his Ball and Chain, which is 1 range, 1 dice with crossed swords, 3 damage. He's got 2 movement, 1 dice of dodge defense, and 3 health. He also has Scurry. And on reaction, after an activation, this fighter becomes inspired. So, once he's activated, as a reaction, he becomes inspired. And here's where the wall of text comes in. He loses all of his movement. He gets 3 dice on dodge and 3 health. Basically, as an action, you scatter 4 from Sourtongue's hex and push Sourtongue 3 hexes along the chain. If he would be pushed into an occupied hex, before he has pushed, the fighter in that hex suffers 1 damage and you push that fighter 1 hex. This push must take that fighter further away from Sourtongue. If Sourtongue would be pushed into a blocked or incomplete hex or into a hex with a fighter that cannot be pushed further away from Sourtongue, do not push him any further and he suffers 1 damage. As does the fighter that cannot be pushed. This fighter cannot make move, charge, or attack actions, and cannot go on or be on guard. So, one of the members of this 9-member warband moves totally randomly after the first time you activate him. I did notice by looking through the cards, and one of the cards from Shadespire, the old, was it -2 move plus 2 wounds? And then there's another one, I think in the Eyes of the Nine, you get that's -2 movement plus 2 wounds. You can pump Sourtongue, or the Sourtongue, up to 7 wounds. So he's 7 wounds with 3 dodge dice. And he's just spinning around the board, damaging people. Seems like it might be fun. Probably stupid, but fun. From everything I've seen, this warband is a bit of kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of nothing in the Warhammer Underworlds game. You got a little bit of range. You got one guy, Drizzt, who wants to be the melee fighter. You got this guy just doing random things, and you got a bunch of archers. So, I think it could be fun. But, alas, on to the next guy. You got Prague Danetta. He has the Barbed Net, which is 1 range, 2 dice with a hammer, and it does 1 damage. And he inspires as soon as you have 3 glory points. And his Barbed Net, if this attack action is successful, reduce the dice characteristic of the target's attack actions by 1. To a minimum of 1 the next activation. And he has Scurry. He has 3 movement, 1 defense dice on a dodge, and 2 health. And once he inspires, He gets one more attack dice, one more movement, and one more dodge dice. So the next three, and the final three of this 9-person warband, are going to be the 3 archers, Red Cap, Dibs, and Stickit. They all have grot bows. They got 3 hex range, 2 dice on their attack of crossed swords, and 1 damage. They move 3 hexes. They've got 1 dice on a dodge and 2 health each. And this is them. And when they inspire, they get 1 more movement and 1 more dodge dice. And they all have scurry. And as you can see with the cards later, they have a lot of cards that, or several cards that allow them to work together. Either to move together or to shoot together. Because this is Warhammer Underworlds. You only have 4 activations per round. So you have 9 models trying to do something with only 4 activations. Which scurry lets you do a lot of the moving. So next, we'll go on to Zarbags objective cards. Here's the objective cards that are specifically for Zarbags. First, we have Call That a Win. Score this in the 3rd end phase. If there are 5 or more surviving friendly fighters, you get 2 glory. Next, we have Dank Haven. Scored in the 3rd end phase. No enemy fighters in your territory. Flash Finale. Score this immediately if an enemy fighter is taken out of action by a spell cast by your warband. Then we have Infestation. Score this in an end phase if you hold every objective. It's going to be worth 5. Mad Scurry. Score this in an end phase if at least 5 of your surviving fighters made a move action in the preceding action phase. Sorry. That's going to be worth 2 glory. Next we have Militia Skill. Score this immediately if your warband takes an enemy fighter with 2 or more upgrades out of action. 2 glory. Obliterated. Score this immediately if a friendly Smirk Sourtongue is inspired and takes an enemy fighter out of action. 2 glory. Scragged. Score this immediately if an enemy fighter is taken out of action while adjacent to 3 or more friendly fighters. Worth 1. And then Vicious Killers. Score this in an end phase of 2 or more friendly fighters made successful attack actions that targeted the same fighter, and that fighter was taken out of action in the preceding action phase. 1 glory. Alright, next we can look at the faction-specific spells. The Gambit spell. Horrible Leer. It needs on 1 to cast. If this spell is cast, push each enemy fighter adjacent to the caster up to 1 hex. This one needs 2 to cast. If this spell is cast, it's called Sneaky Stabbing. Sneaky Stabbing. If this spell is cast, +1 dice and cleave to the first attack action with a range of 1 or 2 made by a friendly fighter in the next activation. Jealous Hex. If this spell is cast, needs 1 of that symbol. If cast, choose a fighter has the highest wounds characteristic on the battlefield. That fighter has -1 wounds. This spell persists until that fighter is out of action. Then the last faction specific is Curse of the Bad Moon. Needs 2 to cast. If this spell is cast, choose a hex within 4 hexes of the caster. Any fighter in that hex or any hex adjacent to it suffers 1 damage. Next, we will move to the ploy card specific to Zarbags. We got Make Some Noise. Choose up to 2 friendly squigs and push each of them up to 2 hexes. Sneaky Step. Choose a friendly fighter and push them 1 hex. Stab them in the knee. If the first attack action in the next activation has a range of 1 or 2, it has +1 damage for each supporting fighter after the first. Fungal Blessing. As a reaction, you play this after an enemy fighter's attack action that takes an adjacent friendly fighter out of action. Their attacker suffers 1 damage. And then Little Wog. +1 dice to the first attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation. If I can hold on to it. The last ploy specific to them, Madcap Mushroom. Innate. 1 of each symbol. For the next spell your Warband attempts to cast, the fighter casting the spell suffers 1 damage if there are any criticals in that casting roll, rather than 2 or more criticals. Lastly, the equip card specific to Zarbags Gits. Sniffer Spot, which is only for Zarbag. If this fighter is in enemy territory in the 3rd end phase, gain 1 glory point. Vindictive Glare. It's an upgrade that gives Zarbag a attack action spell for 3 range and 1 damage. It's going to be 2 dice since he's a level 2. On a critical hit, this attack action has +1 damage. The next is going to be for Drizzt. Firebrand. On a critical hit, this fighter's attack actions with a range of 1 have +1 damage. Also for Drizzt, Grizzled Survivor, +1 defense. This is for the upgrade equip for the 2 squigs, Ravenous. +1 damage to this fighter's attack actions with a range of 1. Also for the 2 squigs, Extra Bouncy. When this fighter makes a move or charge action, they can move through other fighters. But their move Must end in an empty hex. This is for Smirk. Action. Each adjacent fighter suffers 1 damage. Use this action only if this fighter is inspired. Reaction. Volley Caller. Well, this is Volley Caller. This is for the 3 archers. As a reaction, after this fighter makes the grot bow attack action, an adjacent friendly fighter makes their grot bow attack action. So this is one of the cards that allows the archers to kind of go together. Here's one of the, not specific to anybody, but just for the Zarbags Gits. Lurker. It's a reaction after a fighter is pushed a number of hexes. If that fighter was adjacent to this fighter before the push this fighter up to the same number of hexes. This fighter must end the push adjacent to the other fighter. And lastly, the Nasty Stabber. It's a weapon equip for 1 range, 2 dice with a hammer, 2 damage. This attack action has plus 2 dice if a friendly prog is supporting this fighter. So if you give this to one of the anybody else and have the netter prog supporting them, it gets plus 2 dice. So you'll be attacking with 4 dice. Not bad. Next up, we'll go over all of the universal cards that come in Zarbags Gits and see what those bring. Okay. These are the universal objectives you get in Zarbags Gits. So, friendly fighter successfully casts a spell on 2 more criticals. Score if you have fewer glory points than an opponent. And that is catching up. Extreme Flank. Hold it there. You can stop this and read it if you'd like. Interdiction. Take an enemy wizard out. 1 glory point. Keep them guessing. 2 glory points. Magical Void. Attempt to cast, but did not successfully cast. Master of Terrain. Score immediately if an enemy fighter is taken out of action by a lethal hex. 1 glory point. Nowhere to go. Solid Gains. Score this if you gained at least 3 glory points in this round. Sorcerous Scouring. Score this immediately if your Warband takes an enemy fighter out of action with a spell. With your bare hands. And that's all the objectives from all the universal objectives. Next, we'll look at the spells that came with Zarbags Gits. There's several. First is Sphere of Shyish. This one keeps... cast it, and then wound tokens cannot be removed from that fighter's card until that fighter's out of action. So you can keep somebody from healing one of their people. Healing Pulse. What a coincidence. Choose a friendly fighter within 4 hexes of the caster. Remove up to 1 wound token from that fighter's card at the beginning of each round before their first activation. This spell persists until that fighter is out of action. Infinite Riches. Can choose 1 upgrade from your power discard pile and add it to your hand. Levitation lets you ignore treats lethal hexes as normal hexes, and it persists until the caster is out of action or the end of the phase. Abassoth's Unmaking. Basically, you can destroy an objective token. Arcane Shield. Reduced all damage suffered by the caster by 1 to a minimum of 1. And the spell persists until the caster is out of action. All pretty decent spell cards. Next we have the ploy cards. We have Encroaching Shadow. Choose an enemy fighter in an edge hex. They suffer 1 damage. Mirror Move. As a reaction, play this after an opponent pushes a fighter. Choose a different fighter and push them the same number of hexes. 1 step ahead. Keeps your opponent from scoring. Possibly keeps your opponent from scoring an objective. Pit Trap. As a reaction, play this after an attack action that drives an enemy fighter back. They suffer 1 damage. Chain Spot. Scatter 3 from this fighter's hex. Choose 1 fighter standing in a hex in the chain. They suffer 1 damage. Kind of a gamble, but... Faneway Crystal. When this fighter makes a move action, they do not move normally. Instead, place them on any objective token, then discard this card. It is still considered to be a move action. Don't know how that got in there, but that is an equip card. So, that is an equip card too. So these were the only ploy cards. Pit Trap was the last one. These 2 are equips. So we'll go ahead and look at the equip cards. We know what the Chain Spot is. And the Faneway Crystal lets you, as a move action, instead be placed on any objective token, then discard this card. Then we have one of the new things for Night Vault, which is potions. This is the Potion of Rage. As a reaction during this fighter's attack action, before any dice are rolled, discard this card. The attack action has +2 dice until the action is resolved. Also in Night Vault, one of the new things is the tomes. Here is the Tome of Incantations. It's restricted to wizards. Each time this fighter attempts to cast a spell, after the casting roll, you can change one of the symbols rolled to the little lightning bolt symbol. Next we have Fighter's Ferocity. If you score a critical hit, Making an attack action. The attack action has +1 damage. Low Cunning. Fighters supported by this fighter have +1 damage on their attack actions with a range of 1 or 2. We have the Mutating Maul. Let you choose cleave or knockback with this weapon. And here we have the Null Stone Axe. Has one profile that it's basically one of those weapons against wizards, but it also has another profile where you actually can throw it. But when you throw it, you discard the upgrade. Parrying Blade. As a reaction, during an attack action that targets this fighter and fails, this fighter cannot be pushed back, and you make this attack action. Then lastly, we have the Spiteful Charm. As a reaction, after an enemy fighter's attack action that damages this fighter, discard this card. Choose one of the enemy fighter's upgrades. That card is discarded. So it lets you get rid of one of their upgrades. So there you have it. That's all of the cards you're going to get in Zarbags Gits. Whole bunch of good stuff in there. Really can't wait to try these out. Looks fun. Especially a few of the combos I've seen just by looking at these. So, really can't wait to try them out. Thanks for watching, and as always,